the Charles Town Council public hearing, special meeting and executive session. Can we get a roll call?
Buckles present.
Holloway present.
Austin present.
Birch present.
Let it be known that Vice Mayor Bennett is away on vacation, and we've established. Public hearing, proposed sale of real property.
Nobody has signed up, but I did receive an email earlier today.
Okay.
This is from Lauren Caldhill and Kevin Purnell. They're one of the bidders for the property. And she says, Mr. DeRay and Town of Cape Charles Council, in July we submitted a proposal to purchase the Cape Charles town-owned property, tax map number 83A1-1-174, Madison Avenue, Cape Charles. We had intended to attend the meeting that is scheduled to take place this evening, but due to the uncertain weather with the approach of Dorian, we will not be able to do so. I wanted to take just a moment to reiterate why we sent in a proposal for the lot, and why we are hopeful that our bid will be considered, despite it not being the highest bid submitted. As stated in our previous cover letter, we have several friends who own property in the town of Cape Charles. We have spent long weekends visiting with our friends and have enjoyed frequenting the town's businesses and restaurants, and have even participated in the Christmas tree lighting and parade last year. I'm proud to say that I was one of the mermaids that won first prize. Events such as these emphasize why the town is so unique in its character. The sense of community shared by the residents have led us to know that we would love to become permanent members of the Cape Charles family. We both currently live and work in Henrico County, and until such time as we're ready to retire, we will be spending our weekends, holidays, and vacations in Cape Charles. Once retired, it would be our intention to make Cape Charles our year-round home. Even prior to retirement, we intend to become actively involved in the community, volunteering whenever opportunities became available. In addition, we have just become grandparents for the first time and look forward to introducing new generations to the beauty and charm of the town. As previously stated, if our proposal is accepted, it is our intention to construct a cottage-style, single-family home based on the existing architectural standards of the historic district of the town of Cape Charles. While our bid may not be the highest bid submitted, it is our hope that the additional money not paid towards the lot would be invested in beautifying both the lot and Madison Avenue. We welcome an open dialogue and are hopeful that we may negotiate a mutually beneficial agreement that would allow us to join the Cape Charles family. Thank you for your kind consideration.
Thank you, Libby. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Up next, hearing of appeal of the Historic District Review Board's decision of 12 Peach Street. Zach, welcome.
Thank you. All right. On August 9th, 2019, staff received a request from applicant Ann Payne to appeal the Historic District Review Board's conditions of approval for a certificate of appropriateness for a project at 12 Peach Street. The conditions included with the approval of the certificate of appropriateness are as follows. 1, the applicant must provide a sample or detailed shop drawings showing an extruded aluminum storefront. And 2, the proposed mosaic tile in the vestibule is denied. The applicant submitted an application to restore and rehabilitate the facade and residential vestibule, which is located on the front of the building, to allow the use of 2 retail or office units on the first floor and 2 residential units on the second floor of the 2-story commercial building. The application was heard on July 16th by the Historic District Review Board, and staff recommended approval for the project as proposed. The conditional use permit had already been approved for this property to allow residential use over commercial uses. The staff report for the July 16th Historic District Review Board meeting went into detail citing specific pages in the Historic District Guidelines pertaining to this project and is included in your agenda packet. It was determined by staff prior to the application being submitted for this project that the vestibule would be considered exterior due to the applicant stating that the vestibule doors would remain open at all times. According to the guidelines, rehabilitation projects should avoid removal of historic materials or alterations of features and spaces that characterize the property, along with preserving and replacing distinctive features. The guidelines go on to state that where deterioration requires replacement of distinctive features, new features shall match the old in design, color, texture, and other visual qualities, and where possible, materials. The applicant provided extensive research and justification for the proposed changes in her initial application, in which none of the historical photos showed a tile floor in the residential vestibule. However, staff took the view that the concrete within the vestibule was not a distinctive feature and would not deter from the character of the district, and therefore matching the old concrete in design, color, texture, and other visual qualities did not apply. The applicant also proposed an aluminum frame storefront window in her application. Page 48 of the guidelines states that materials and elements that are incompatible with the building or district, including aluminum frame windows and doors, should be avoided. Although the applicant is proposing aluminum frame windows, storefront windows, it was mentioned in the staff report that staff believed the proposed material, aluminum, was not incompatible with the surrounding storefronts and therefore met the guidelines. In summary, as staff reviewed the proposed application for the July 16th Historic District Review Board meeting, staff determined that the proposed changes met the guidelines and therefore recommended approval for the project as proposed.
Anybody have any questions for Jen?
Yeah, just one question. I saw on one of the drawings the added door on the right-hand side. It wasn't written up in the verbiage, but I just want to make sure that that is also being added to the store.
Yes, so it wasn't included in the letter of intent, and I didn't actually talk about it in my staff report specifically,
Right.
but it was discussed at the meeting
Okay.
and approved by the board.
And the other question I had was aluminum framed windows. Isn't there another clause that talks about then if aluminum painting it with some kind of zinc chrome paint?
Possibly, I don't recall exactly, but
Yeah, I believe that's in there. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And I think the applicant is going to paint these.
I'm not exactly sure. I think they can speak on that,
Okay.
but yeah. It might be included in the letter of intent as well.
Thank you, Zach. Ms. Payne? How are you this evening?
Good. My husband, Georgie.
Nice to meet you. Would you like to add anything?
It is going to be painted Conair. It's Conair's the vendor, and they have their own brand of paint that they apply to the exterior.
Okay.
Black.
Can you speak louder into the microphone? You hear you.
It is going to be painted.
Okay, and you have an existing aluminum box window.
Yes,
Right.
that's correct.
So you're just going to replace it with another aluminum, perhaps with a thinner or less reveal?
Actually, it probably going to be a little more of a reveal. I don't know if you are familiar.
Well, I saw the pictures and I couldn't get down to the detail as to what this actually looked like.
It's almost identical. It's the same product that's used on the Gordon Campbell's building where Moonrise and at altitude.
Okay.
It's a slightly larger reveal
Okay.
than what's there. What's there now is just a metal thin strip.
Okay. Another question I had was with regards to the removal of bricks. I'm looking at the reason why you're replacing windows to begin with. One, you've got a new door, and you've got a row of bricks being removed. And why is that?
If you look at the building, and this was all speculation, the decorative brick makes it look like, and we've had a brick person inform us that the bulkhead was filled in at some point. And we're just proposing to remove that fill-in, the minor fill-in brick, and repair the storefront on the existing old storefront.
Okay.
And you can almost see decorative brickwork bands that outline the previous.
Yeah, I looked at it, and the brick in these rows, I've seen that are visibly different from the others, but I can't say whether or not that was original or added at some point in time.
We speculated that it was, and we had a brick, person, restorer from the Hampton Roads area confirm that those were a lot of bricks. Now, when they were done, they were that.
Now, again, coming back to my question, why are you removing that set of rows?
Because I think it looks better with the, not the soldier rows, but the roll-off. Yeah, I think the roll-off of bricks frame the storefront.
Okay.
And I want the storefront to go back to being framed by that roll-off of bricks.
Okay. Okay.
Anybody have any?
Make the motion that we let you go ahead with what you want to do.
Well,
We still
we
got
have
to
to score for you, board, please.
Anybody have any more questions for Mr. Lucifer?
Yeah, I mean, what's the intention? I mean, I know that, I guess, Zach, you determined the interior because the doors are left open. That's going to be treated as an exterior now. I mean, I still see that as interior, but that's just my opinion. And you're just basically going to try to match the existing stuff, mosaic-wise that are in the house already.
That's correct. I provided several pictures of mosaic entries throughout the town.
Because if anybody knows the history, this was a car dealership and repair shop. That was first. So it goes along the lines of repurposing the building for, office spaces and residential. So it's a repurposed building. Now bring it back to what it used to be.
I think it is a valid point to look at whatever style of tile goes in there, because certain styles of tile are indicative of certain eras of buildings. And thank you for putting all the different photographs of them. You can see from the old Charlie Margaret's kind of brick looking one to where the old laundromat was with the small, like 1 inch. All different. So I couldn't begin to tell you what would be the appropriate kind for that era of building. I don't know exactly when that building was built.
20, early 20s.
Right.
So I would assume that there's something that's appropriate to that era. It's like a commercial application that might be reasonable, or appropriate, maybe it's a better way to describe that. I do want to say that I appreciate all of the research work that you did to present to this board. I think it's an extremely thorough package. So we wouldn't have seen that short of the appeal of these couple of conditions. So appreciate all that you've done to put it together.
Thank you. I have not come up with a specific design of the mosaic tile, and I can come before the historic district review again if that would make people more comfortable once I do determine the design. But it is going to be of the same ilk of the pictures that were in the package.
I think our position is the issue of the appeal is just these two conditions, not to remand it back to the board.
Right. Anybody have any more questions? Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Chairperson Ryan?
Mr. Mayor and Council, I'm going to recuse myself from commenting on this case because I share the witness attached to 12 Main Street. The letter of the co-chair, Mr. Schaffner, addressed that issue. That's okay with you all.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Evening. You should have in your packet the written reason for the conditional approval. I'm going to just kind of read through that. I'm trying to make this really lengthy, but just read through that. Or maybe just go over the highlights. What we tried to do, as what we've been trying to do with all of these, is try to get a good use for the building, at the same time trying to keep as much of the historical material that survives in the building intact. And we made some compromises. One was allowing the storefront to be lowered to its speculated original position. We don't know that that is, but we don't know that it wasn't. So we thought that was a reasonable compromise. We allowed another door to be put in, which again was not really within the guidelines, but it's about the only way you can get an additional use out of that building. So in doing that, we gave and we expected some give back. And the give back that we were asking for was to do something with the storefront that didn't make it look like a modern storefront. And it has a wooden storefront in it with a glass glazing now. It doesn't have that. It only has an aluminum sort of rope metal to cover up the wood.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify. So if I go up right now, it is aluminum boxed in wood.
It's just like it's done so many times, whenever somebody comes up and puts aluminum siding on it, they've just broken some metal, they put it over the wood. So the wood is still there. The storefront is still there in wood. So we were making a compromise to try to work something out that would work well for the use of the building again. So, I mean, one alternative would be just do away with the aluminum and go back to wood. That would be an alternative. So that's something that we were trying to do in helping to move the situation along. So then, in the appeal notice, there was a lot of discussion about the availability of this material. I've done probably 30 projects in the last 10 years with material exactly as I described. I brought copies of the most recent one I did. It has the manufacturer's product, the name, the shop drawings. They're here for anybody else.
That's made out of what?
Aluminum. They're aluminum storefronts with light.
Are there any in town with a profile?
Couldn't tell you that.
There's not one in town that has a profile. So there's not one in town with a profile. So why are we going to reinvent the wheel and start making people do something that doesn't already exist? The state of Virginia just did Peachtree bookstores and allowed them, instead of putting in garage doors back in, to put that same aluminum that we put in theirs.
Different scenario.
No, it was a historic renovation, a true historic renovation, run by the state, and they got tax credits back by it. These guys are just basically repurposing the building, not historically renovating.
Garage doors are treated differently by the historic standards than our storefronts. You're talking about garage doors, we're talking about storefronts.
It's a storefront. It's a storefront right now.
Well, now,
Exactly. Same principle. It was a repurposed building into a storefront now. It's a storefront now. That was a garage back when it was built in 1920. When the storefront, the same thing.
So I addressed those particular issues. Then, as we move through the comments, I'd like to go over a couple of those. So the citations to justify the work. The first one is a quote that says, "Choose a design that relates to the design character of historic buildings in the area." And that's the key word, is historic. There are lots of buildings in town that are not historic. They have nothing to do with the design of a historic building. And that's what I'm getting at. Just because something's been done in the past that's wrong, doesn't mean we should continue it.
Well, tell that to the state of Virginia that basically did the historic renovations to that building. They just did it.
But you're not listening to them. That's a garage opening. They treat garage door openings differently.
You're not listening, that was actually a historic, that was a garage, same thing. That building was a garage.
So in that, it says features or spatial relationships that characterize the property are important and should be retained. These are comments that are coming from the applicant themselves. As we move down, as we further down, she says the selection of materials and textures for a new building should be compatible with and compliant with neighboring buildings. The question again is neighboring historic buildings, not neighboring modernized buildings that don't meet the standards. A study of the materials, building features, and details typical of existing buildings along the streetscape, block or square, will provide vocabulary to draw on in designing a compatible building. Excuse me. Again, that refers to historic buildings, not modern buildings. The question about paint, that refers to aluminum storm windows, not painted storefronts. That's on page 42 of our guidelines, and they refer to storm windows. So that really doesn't play a role. Further down, she quotes a replacement storefront design to be undertaken based on a thorough understanding of the building's architecture and where appropriate the surrounding streetscape. Again, referring to historic buildings, not other buildings that don't have a place in the town. When planning the rehabilitation of a historic building, regardless of its new use, it's important that the commercial character of the original building be retained. In the case of a storefront that's been altered, the existing non-historic storefront may be returned. Again, we gave a little bit of guidance, a little bit of leeway there to, we couldn't say it was or it wasn't, so again, we allowed that. Further, recommended replacing in kind an entire storefront that is too deteriorated to repair. This one isn't too deteriorated to repair, but if you're going to replace it, you use the same material that is not technically or economically unfeasible. If it is, then substitute materials should be considered that are similar in design, materials, and character of the building. The last one is about energy and energy conservation, and it specifically says, although work of this type is quite important in the aspect of rehabilitation projects, it is usually not a part of the overall process of protecting or repairing character-defining features. For this reason, particular care must be taken not to radically change, obscure, damage, or destroy character-defining materials.
Anybody have any questions?
Terry, you were saying allowing the other door to exist or whatever, is that the current door that's on that front side that's on?
They want to add another door, so they're going to create two storefronts, but two retail or office buildings on the first floor. So in order to do that, they have to have two doors that face the street. So there's a door on the left side, not counting the entry that we're talking about with the tile.
Yes.
But there's another door.
Right.
They want to add another one on the other side, so that there's two entries in addition to the one that will go in and go upstairs.
And did you guys talk about the wood windows instead of this aluminum, keeping the same?
We did not.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying it's not part of the condition approval.
No, I know that, I'm just talking about when you.
We discussed what material was there. We did not offer them the alternative of keeping the wood because they seem so intent on that.
Okay.
Well, the wood would have to be replaced anyway because we're enlarging the windows, right? So it's not a one-for-one replacement. It's removing brick, adding a door, and then redesigning the window system.
Right.
Okay.
And I forgot to mention about the tile.
Yeah.
And our rationale for the tile goes back again to many of the same standards of not creating a false sense of history. This is a vehicle entrance that we're talking about here. It's not a pedestrian entrance. It was always a vehicle entrance and never had mosaic tile. So if you put mosaic tile on it, you create a false sense of history by intimating that it is a pedestrian entrance. It's not necessary. It's not a requirement. It's a beautification. I get that. I agree. I like the mosaic tile, but if you're going to follow the standards, you can't do that.
How is that different than adding another door?
Oh, I agree that the door is necessary though. If you're going to have two spaces down there, it's a necessary accommodation.
And there is guidance from what I saw on adding doors in
Yes.
storefronts, so it's not unheard of, and it tells you to match what you've got there.
Well, to the extent that it's not a preservation, I'm kind of talking and asking a question, then that building is an era where having a tile entry of some kind, notwithstanding a car driving over it, I get exactly what you're saying about that, and I'm sensitive personally about trying not to have something give a false sense of history. But it's not doing that, it is adjunct to everything else about that building. Just that little entry now, and that would be an adaptive reuse, and you still find that objectionable?
Yeah, because if you look at that, the big opening is not pedestrian in its nature. It also has the ballards at the bottom to keep the vehicle's wheels from rubbing the wall. It speaks vehicle entrance. You put that tile in there, it doesn't. So, yeah. Again, what we're trying to do is administer the guidelines as the guidelines state. And the guidelines state not to do that. They say do not create a false history in the building. And that does create a false sense of history. Because I mean, even taking the photographs of all the other pedestrian entrances, to me, just supports that you're just creating that this was an entrance.
Well, for the purpose of that building at one time.
But that's what we're trying to preserve, is the
Well,
original.
Yeah, I think that, maybe that's my issue, maybe that's my question, my issue. Whether trying to preserve that as it was with its use originally built versus an adaptive reuse sensitive to historic renovation. Is that like?
But that's what the guidelines say.
I understand.
If we're going to be true to that, that's what we should do.
Well, we wouldn't allow the other door.
No, there is precedent in the guidelines to do that.
I understand, but we're really messing up what that looked like. It wouldn't have had another door.
I agree.
Although the applicant was very clear that the garage doors will remain open, technically, she could still, I mean, I read the application, that they're going to work, they're going to redo the hardware. Technically, they can close those garage doors at any time, and then it would become the inside of the building.
And we had that discussion. And, you know, I really truly believe that and I think the board would agree with me, that the tile is a minor issue. And to me, it should be a minor issue on both sides of the fence. I mean, whether you have tile on the floor or not doesn't really affect the use of the building in terms of whether it's still usable or not. It's a beautification thing. It has nothing to do with the functionality of the building. So if you want to say the doors are going to be closed and call it indoor space, then yeah, we have no purview there. We talked about that, but she was very clear that she's leaving the doors open.
I guess if the brick is not the way it is, I can picture a mat being spread out in there, and I guess it's for the only difference is it's removable.
Yeah, it's, as I said, it's the least of the issues, I think, for the board, but, you know, I just don't see that. Its only purpose is beautification. We try to be flexible on the things that made the building functional or not about making it feel beautiful. I mean, I get that it's more attractive, but if we're going to preserve the history of the building, then mosaic tile has no place.
If we were to have tile there already and it was in disrepair, I'm pretty sure we would pass judgment that that tile had to be repaired, right, to restore it back to that condition. I just see it as a flip and use the same common sense, I would say, is it doesn't have tile and it's never had, and it's an addition. And yes, I agree, it's perhaps beautification, but it wasn't there originally.
Anybody got any more questions? Thank you very much.
We have to see if we can back the door, the other next one.
Mr. Patrick, you can go back up, please, one more. Zach, is this on the national?
Yes. Yes.
It's been tagged.
Yes, it's contributed.
Thank you. Would you elaborate on this opening and closing of the doors?
I can't promise they'll be kept open. They've been open for many years. The hardware will work. I guess whoever chooses to reside upstairs will have the choice to close the doors. You know, right now they're just opening with little eye hooks on the brick. So I cannot promise. My intention will be to keep them open, but I'm not the resident there. I'm the owner. There won't be anything in the lease that says you have to keep the doors open. Can I clarify something else? We did talk about the wood, and the wood is going to remain. You asked me about the historic wood, and I said the wood was fine. We would actually lower that existing historic wood, what may or may not be existing historic wood, down to the storefront, reusing that wood and insert the aluminum storefront to replace the existing aluminum storefront. So that was discussed.
There's no, but the aluminum storefront is sitting on the original frame. So the original frame could be
Will remain.
reused.
And we talked
But
about
could
that.
be reused without a storefront. It doesn't have to have, the storefront's not structural. It doesn't have to be there. The glass can be contained in a wood frame.
I'm gonna replace the modern aluminum storefront that's on the possible historic wood frame. The wood frame is gonna remain on the other, and just replace it with a different aluminum storefront. We talked about that.
There is actually an aluminum frame storefront window in there. It's not just covered over with aluminum trim.
Yes. Inside a wood frame.
Don't you have to alter the wood though? If you
Yeah.
have
We
it
will
now?
have to come down, and we talked about that, we will drop the wood frame down.
Okay,
If it's, and we talked about this also, we're not sure, because we're not sure how much of it is salvageable. So far, what we've seen looks
so you
salvageable.
can throw it off, right?
Yeah,
But you're intending on taking the aluminum frame off, let's say, expose the wood, take the bricks out, lower,
the wood,
and then bring wood down to the sill.
right.
Repair any wood that's rotted. But the wood that's up high now is not original, it's the original oak was 2.5 feet low. So that's not the original wood. The frame that's there now was.
If those bricks were added.
Right.
There's another, there's several, the guidelines are guidelines, they're up for interpretation. So there, also regarding the mosaic tile, I don't see the existing concrete as a characterizing feature of the building. We're not gonna, they say if you are to cover up a character defining feature of a building that's in the guidelines and in the standards, it has to be so that when removed, it could be removed back to its original state, which is exactly what we're doing. So if somebody wants to say, yes, that's a character defining feature, which I don't think it is, it will still be there under the tile. Since it won't be used as a garage entrance anymore and a residential entrance was why I was thinking I wanted it to look more like the other residential entrances in town.
One last question.
Yes.
May I ask that question?
Yes.
So, in the presentation that you gave to us to kick off the hearing, the staff's determination was with regard to the July 16th meeting. Do you have a recommendation for us with regard to the holding or overturning of the conditions that were granted on the certificate of purposes? Has anything changed since this July 16th and now? I mean, this looked like it was, speaking back to the earlier hearing.
Yeah, I would say that if I was reviewing it today, I'd have the same determination of recommending approval as what was submitted in July 16th.
For the reasons the findings that you found in what you reported here? Okay, thank you.
But I will say that that's the thing is, I mean, you can really determine, like, they have good points, it's really hard. This is a hard thing to a staff and as a board and as a council. It's a hard thing to come to a conclusion and as the applicant. I mean, it's really, you can look at it in any different way.
I understand. No, I appreciate that. Only that you're,
Yeah.
everybody's put their input in. I just want to make sure
Yeah.
we have all of the factors. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you. So, we've got two items we have.
I'm sorry. If I can ask, Terry, can you speak to this depth of reveal? Does that seem to be an issue?
That's the reveal on.
The window?
Well, I just went over there and looked at it again, and I certainly can be wrong, but it looks to me like that it is nothing but an IG or insulated glass unit that sits in the current wooden frame with some trim.
Okay.
I did not look to see that there was an aluminum frame there, but that's what I recall, is that it's an IG unit sitting in a wooden frame with two pieces of trim that comes into that frame. But really, it's, you know, what's there, if we're gonna allow them to change the opening, there has to be something new that goes back in there.
Right.
So, I mean, that's kind of a big given thing. So, the alternatives to me, to make in that new opening are to either make it wood, allow storefront. If we allow storefront, it just has to have some definition, rather than just being the square, blocky storefront that is so, speaks of such a modern structure. And it is available. It's not ultra expensive. It's available. We use it in many projects, and it's very successful. It's a long-lasting material, and it's not difficult.
But the only problem with that, there's not one piece of that in town, because it's all the old block. Everything in town has been modernized from 245 Mason.
So we're just going to continue that and just modernize every building?
It's just like anything else that states in the guidelines, basically with like buildings around town. Right next to them, you got Tim's place, it's got the same aluminum, it's silver though, it's not painted. It's epoxy aluminum, it's the same stuff. Every building in town, you can look at anything that's
Every building?
modern, just about every building.
We just spent a lot of time with the Parsons building. I mean, we have worked really hard with that fellow.
Parsons building,
He's-
he hasn't done it, he has not changed his window front.
He's not going to, because we worked with it really hard.
That's fine.
So what is he,
I understand that.
he's got a appeal coming.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is, the one that was just done around the corner, there was historic tax
They're
credits.
garage doors, they're treated differently.
It's still a storefront.
Look it up in the guidelines for the
You're
National
missing-
Park
you're
Service.
exactly-
They're treated differently.
You're missing the entire point.
No, I'm not. They're garage doors. These are not garage doors.
But the problem is, it's a storefront now, and that's exactly what that building was a garage. That happens to be a storefront.
I have a question. I have a question. The change in these windows, will it determine if this building, when it goes around again, will be a conforming structure, will it take it out of the historic conforming structure, just by these windows?
That's a really difficult question to answer. Probably the quick answer would be no, that we can take it out as a conforming structure. But I can guarantee you that if the DHR were sitting here, they would be speaking the exact same language that I'm speaking. I can guarantee you that. They don't have.
They just did the same thing, they just did Peachtree Books.
I think the important point, pardon me for jumping in, but the important point here is every single application that comes to the Historic Review Board is different.
Yes.
Every single building is different. You know, you use it in some way, even if it's just one. Each location, nothing else. And it is very difficult to, I think, to apply consistent guidelines for, over time to all buildings for all units. That's why, Andy, with all respect to you, that's why there are things that are maybe not appropriate that have been done over the years. And then there are things that are perfectly appropriate that were just voluntarily done, and, you know, and everything in between. So I want to compare the best we can as far as this appeal is concerned. I want to compare the guidelines as best we can understand them, being reasonable, being practical, but having respect for not necessarily preservation, but sensitive approach to protecting the historic character of the town and allowing rebuild.
I totally agree, but I'm comparing apples to apples, that was a garage at one
I
time.
know you are, but I don't know, we don't know about that. That's not our issue.
But DHCD just around the corner
I-
did Peachtree Books and approved that as historic tax
I
credits.
know, I understand what you're saying, but it's like a different building. That's not our issue.
Neither one of them were storefronts when they were set up.
I know it was.
One was a garage,
I
one was a
know.
dealership garage.
Right.
But I think what I would like to ask council is to make a motion on each different item. What you would like to do, or it's two separate issues.
Conditions, each condition, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we got the storefront, and we've also got the
tile.
tile, the electric break over those things. So, I have a motion on something.
So are you asking for a motion to either uphold the conditions or overturn the conditions and vote on an individual basis?
On an individual
Okay,
basis.
I understand, thank you.
I make a motion that we approve it as presented by the historic review board. As is. Your application.
And that will be to uphold.
Uphold.
Yeah.
Upon the appeal or?
Uphold go forward with it.
Go forward with what?
No, what they're presenting us tonight, the Regional Historic Review Board has said, let it go ahead, let it, it's come to us.
The question is, do you want to go ahead with both the window change out as supplied by the applicant and the addition of tiles by the applicant?
I want, the presentation he made, I want us to go vote yes on that.
So you want to uphold the decision of the historic review board?
Yes. Without
So you want to
any,
deny the appeal? Correct.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
Okay.
So we have a motion to deny the whole appeal.
His motion would be to uphold the historic review board's decision, if I understand what you're
Yes.
saying.
Right.
You're not doing that. Okay.
Which is not the same thing as what you asked for. You said, okay.
I understand, but you made a motion. Do I have a second? Motion dies. Give a motion.
I'll make a motion that we allow the addition of tiles to the vestibule there, considering the fact that they can always be removed in the future.
We have another motion.
We're not going to deal with that motion?
Yes, I said we have
Oh,
a
okay.
motion.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
So I second that.
All in favor?
Right.
Opposed? We have a motion on the windows, on the storefront.
Okay, I make a motion that we basically allow the alteration of the windows to, lower them, use the mod thing, and keeping the wood that they had discussed. I don't know how else to word it. They're keeping the wood. It's already on there. They're just replacing the 40 box aluminum frame that's over there, just a different type. The sensor is going to stay the exact same, just a different color. Because they already got the approval to enlarge the windows. So it's just a matter of allowing them to use the aluminum with the wood.
So as I understand it, we have a motion to, for the applicant to lower, to use the wood frame and use the aluminum, the modern aluminum of what they were presenting.
Which is to overturn the historic review board's decision.
So we have a motion to overturn the historic decision. Second. All of those. All right, it died. I asked for a second, nobody gives a second. I need a second before we move forward, nobody gives a second.
Essentially, they're going to end up, they got to approve the lower windows. So they got to put stuff back. What are they going to put back? And to be, you got to take safety consideration. You put plate glass back in there, safety glass. So what are they going to put in there? They got to approve the lower, so we're going to do. I mean, they got the approval to lower the windows and enlarge and take out those bricks, right? So when are they going to go back? That's changing, that whole structure's gotta change.
Okay, technically,
That whole structure's changing.
please correct me here, but technically, some parliamentary here help, but where the motion failed for lack of a second, that was not taken up, so there's no decision on that as to one way or the other. Is that correct?
So a new motion would have to come forward.
Okay. Okay. For the purpose of further discussion, I'll make a motion that the window drawings showing the extruded aluminum storefront as appealed, and for the purposes of this return of decision, would be, I make that motion for the purpose of, that's gobbledygook, I'm sorry. I'll make the motion, get it on the table.
For what? Can you explain that again?
To overturn the Historic Review Board's decision with regard to that condition.
I thought that's what you had just proposed.
But it just wasn't.
That's what I was
There.
clear, and I have said, for the purpose of the discussion and showing the extreme aluminum storefront specifically.
Do I get a second for that? Right, any discussion?
Okay. One point about this is what's in there now. It is not, that's not a question. What is in there now? It is not perhaps appropriate to the era of that building now. I don't know. Okay, and I don't even know when that was done. So you exactly know any more about the history of when that was done?
No, it's all new.
Steve changed out the upper windows in 2008 when he put the gym.
And you're talking aluminum coming into play, correct me if I'm wrong, after World War II.
Yes.
So that's kind of the era as to when it started. You're talking steel back in those days.
Steel was still in use at that time, too.
That's correct, but aluminum started coming into play in the 40s.
All I'm saying is we're going back with the same thing, it's just a different color. We're leaving the wood structure, they're gonna repair what they can to the wood. They gotta put back the aluminum boxes, and put the safety glass back in there. So they're not putting plate glass back in there, because you can't. It's basically gonna be safety glass. So that structure alone is gonna be over 4 sides of the safety glass in the window. You've got, basically, to put the wood back, the wood's going back, and they're gonna stretch whatever they can with new wood. You're still gonna have the aluminum that's already existing there, it's just a different color. I don't know how to explain it. Basically, you got the approval to the larger windows, so they got to back this up. Correct?
I understand.
They're not changing it that much. I mean, they're going back to the different color, that's it. The wood's staying. So I don't even know how it got done, I don't even understand why it's high. It's got to back this up. You know, let them in on a large window, instead of, you can't use the aluminum that's already there. It's not a aluminum that's like Parsons building, it's got strips in there. This is actually a channel. Just a 245 basin and everybody else is
I guess that's what I was saying before, I'm not sure that those were appropriate. That's why I really do want to compare one to the other.
Yeah, but if we did, we go to comparison of the buildings to the next two. You got Tim's Restaurant right next, 2 doors down, it's got the same stuff in it. You're gonna put aluminum, so you're comparing it to one of the buildings right next door.
I understand.
I'll be glad to share with you these drawings that shows how easy this is to do.
Yeah, but you're forcing someone to use something that's not even in town. That's irrelevant. It's still aluminum structure. You just want a profile on the window for whatever reason. There are no profiles in town whatsoever.
There's profile on this one tonight.
Not on that aluminum, there's not. They're keeping the
But
wood
the
structure.
wood is there.
They're keeping the wood. They're keeping the wood. It's one of the whole point of keeping the wood.
No, they said they didn't know if the wood was not solid enough.
They just said it 5 minutes ago. They're keeping
No, they
the
said
wood.
they don't know if it's all solid.
We're
Keeping whatever
replacing
it's
it.
solid.
They're replacing it.
Whatever's rotted, it's not salvageable.
You can't
rock, you
There's
can't
a
use rock.
perfectly appropriate historic treatment available.
I don't remember parliamentary procedure, but I think call for the question means that we vote.
Yeah, that's correct.
Call for the question.
Okay, we got a vote? We got a motion, we got a second.
I vote yes.
All in favor?
Yes.
I'll say no.
For Kristen, yes. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Can we get a motion to close the appeal hearing? All in favor? Any opposed? All right. To the regular meeting. Public comments for agenda items only.
Nobody signed up, but I did get the email submitted today. First one is from Joanne Fowler. Says, I'm writing again for the town council to consider a leash law in all public places. This would include the beach. The beach is the primary concern for dogs running unleashed. With the proposed longer season for unleashed dogs, the concern is greater. A leash law does harm to no one. It is the way to ensure safety for all. The public should not have to deal with dogs running at large in any public place. A leash law protects human and non-humans as well as property like the protected dunes and the local wildlife. A leash law is the only way to protect the community as well as visitors. May 29, 2019, Virginia Beach had an unfortunate incident where an unleashed dog attacked and killed a dog on the beach. Truly sad and devastating. This is just one local example of the horrific result of something that did not need to happen. In a perfect world, all dogs would get along and owners would be respectful of others when it came to their dog's behavior. An owner of an unleashed dog is less likely to clean up after their dog and the waste ends up in the bay. I've witnessed dogs running through the dunes and the owners doing nothing to stop this. What control does the owner with more than one dog have when their dogs are running in opposite directions? At minimum, please consider a dog park for those that choose to take the risk of having their dogs run unleashed. The rest of us should not have to take the risks associated with unleashed dogs. I understand if the town is considering allowing the use of shock collars as a form of restraint. I question how this will be monitored and how to confirm the proper use of this. A physical restraint such as a harness or collar is the only sure way to connect a dog to its owner. The leash is a visible cue to others that the dog is under an owner's control. Thank you for your consideration. This one's from Lori Smith. It says, good morning. I have reviewed the proposed leash law and am pleased to see that the town is recognizing the importance of having the leash law in place. I strongly believe that the leash law should extend onto the beach as well. With the growth of our town and increase of tourists, more children and pets are now using the beach. Allowing the dogs to remain unleashed is going to place people, pets, and property at high risk of injuries or damage. Using a visible restraint is the safest way to avoid this. Virginia Beach experienced an unnecessary but horrible incident earlier this year when unleashed dogs attacked and killed a leash dog. We cannot set ourselves up for this to happen here. I walk my dog on the beach with a leash and am very nervous when I see unleashed dogs running out of control with no knowledge of who the owner is or where they are. I have no doubt that someone is going to get hurt. Creating a dog park is the best and safest solution for all. Perhaps the beach area just north of Washington Street could be designated as the dog beach area. Please consider everyone's safety when voting on the leash law. Thank you. The last one is from Kern Shem. It says, to the Cape Charles Town Council regarding proposed text of new leash ordinance. I want to thank the mayor and town council for the open discussion period that we had at the last council meeting regarding the proposed new leash ordinance for Cape Charles. As a community, we covered a lot of ground, and I'm not sure whether the new language posted on the town site reflects everything as I remember, or if I don't remember everything accurately. In this regard, I came away from the last meeting with the impression that the summer hours for excluding beach use by dogs would be from 9 a.m. until sunset. I believe Andy Buchholz suggested this. The language is posted as the same as in the current ordinance, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. My recollection is that we saw the need to have some daylight time in the evening so that dog owners who feel uncomfortable on the darkened beach would be able to walk their animals in the half hour or so between sunset and actual darkness falling. Another issue which we discussed at the meeting had to do with dogs on the fishing pier. The language as proposed prohibits dogs from the pier 24/7 all year long. It seems to me that a seasonal solution like that for the beach is more reasonable, since aside from the tourist season, no one much makes use of the pier. As I mentioned at the last meeting, many nights in the winter, my dog and I are the only living beings on the pier. My final thoughts regard the dates for restricted seasonal hours. Since the last council meeting, I have counted the number of people using the beach virtually every day, between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. while walking. On good weather days, we generally had between 100 and 200 people on the beach during those times. Over the Labor Day weekend, we had well over 250 on the beach. This week, after Labor Day, on Tuesday, Wednesday, and today, Thursday, September 5th, there have been no more than 10 beach users, and on each occasion, several were dog walkers like myself. Based on this, admittedly non-scientific survey of beach use post-Labor Day, it appears to me that extending the season to September 15th is not justified. I suggest that the dates of this season in the ordinance be May 1st to the day after Labor Day. Perhaps we could review this date every year or two, and if beach use spikes after Labor Day in the future, we can extend the season hours at that time. Once again, thank you for giving dog owners the opportunity to express their views in an open discussion with no time limits. We really appreciated that.
Thank you, Libby. Item 7A, leash law.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this is the updated language on the proposed leash law legislation. I will spare everyone the background and item specifics on page 53 of the package. The background is the current law as it stands has been well quoted in the past as the beginning of the item specifics of the sections in the Code of Virginia related to control of domestic canines. The new language begins on page 2 of that staff report, page 54 in the document, and it does have 6 parts to it. The 6th part is part number 6 is the easiest one to consider. That is the service dogs are recognized as regulated animals and are exempt from the regulations of this section. So no need to change that. Item 1A is the provision for the running at large, roaming, self-hunting. That's language exactly from the Code of Virginia. So for the sake of enforcement, the town ordinance reconciled with the state code. That language, or at least a section of the code, needs to be cited. In the language verbatim or code section. Section A1 does both. A2 talks about the need to restrain animals in one way or another, whether that's through a physical restraint or an electronic e-collar on any public street, sidewalk, alley, plaza, or thoroughfare. Again, this does not pertain to private property. This does not pertain to restaurants. This only pertains to public streets, sidewalks, alleys, plazas, or other thoroughfares. A3 talks about the need to have certain town facilities exempt at all times from domestic canines. These include the town office, public works and public utilities facility, the civic center, the library, tennis courts, children's playground, and the fishing pier continue to be included. The justification for item 3, it identifies public places where domestic canines are prohibited due to the exclusive nature of the use of those places or the restricted footprint or access to these places. So again, the fishing pier is treated as another town facility. If it's treated as the beach, that would move it down to section 4, which would put it under time and date, some flexibility of time and date. But at this point, the fishing pier, staff has included fishing pier in these other specific use facilities. There's only one playground, there's only one fishing pier, so people who go to fish aren't necessarily going there to be exposed to someone else's dog. Much like people who go to Central Park might be willing to be exposed to other people's dogs. Item 4 is the beach and the beach season. And again, staff notes the competing good of the folks who go out to exercise their dog while there's still some daylight hours with the competing good of the folks who go out for peace and quiet to watch the sunset. In a sense, that's contested public space. The 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. exclusion is at least firm. Sunset becomes much more difficult for the cops to enforce, to be honest with you. Is sunset dusk? How much is dusk? Whereas 7 o'clock would not be difficult. So an exclusion from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. is at least 7 p.m. where there's ample time to watch the sunset. That is if the space is determined to be shared. Staff still finds it to be contested space, so people are there for other reasons until walking points. So statutory staff in this version is not recommending a change from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. exclusion during the season. The exclusion date of May 1 seems to have some anonymity behind it, and the other terminal date of September 15th. Frankly, staff is agnostic on that one, recognizing that there are people already after Labor Day, and Labor Day can be the 7th of September to the 1st of September, so that does allow for more opportunity for people to be on the beach. Again, if council's amenable, the idea of doing periodic checks, text amendments, maybe a worthwhile compromise for the whole thing as opposed to a firm sunset date. Whereas May 1, I think, there was a good discussion and unanimity that the season can be extended past April 1.
Right, but what you're suggesting is leave it 9:15, but then periodically review it and change this ordinance?
Or Tuesday after Labor Day, and then review it again. Because Tuesday after Labor Day could be September 8th.
Gotcha, okay.
I'm glad to say I'm good with the 15th.
I propose the 15th, but I would be willing to do the Tuesday. I really think on the other end of the first, and not for now, but I do think we should keep a lookout in April, because our April this year in particular was much stronger as far as getting into season earlier. So I mean, I'm fine with it the way that it is, but I do think as current reference, we should observe so that we know that.
I do know we discussed the sunset during that.
Well, yeah, 9 o'clock makes no sense in October, November, December, because
So they go
down.
anytime in October, November,
The
December.
sun's down an hour and a half after the, before that.
Yeah, but a dog can go on the beach anytime in October, November,
Yeah, it doesn't
December.
matter.
This is only for the season, right?
That's right.
Right.
I forgot.
Yeah, so. I mean, for the most part, that June, July, August, it don't get dark until 9:30. Maybe in June, it's a little bit earlier than that, so it's.
But we're not gonna have any set hours between September 16th and April 30th.
That's. Want to back that 9 up to 8:45?
No.
One that runs a fishing pier business, and the note about including the fishing pier is the main thing about fishing pier is dogs, even on a leash, because it is really a confined space. Okay, and so at least to walk out there, and if you walk out there and people are fishing, then it's, it's kind of running a little bit of a gauntlet, So I'm kind of sticking to that about the dogs on the fishing pier. I could probably be convinced otherwise if they were always on the leash, they kept them on the same schedule as being on the beach, and then they can be on or off.
I was one of the people in the fishing pier too, but I hate to take that away from people who really enjoy being out on the fishing pier and they have their dog on the lead. I just think, or just going out for a walk on the pier, fishing pier and back, and think about that from in lower season, that's, I don't know, I think that's a penalizing in a way that doesn't.
It is. Let me tell you, I use the fishing pier, and people take their dogs for a walk and they're on a leash. So I'm for moving the fishing pier into the beach area.
We have problems with the dogs off leash, so that is an issue that will now have a way to
I would
enforce.
prefer moving into the sidewalk and time area. In other words, it's on leash all the time.
Well, that could be, but in this, if you put it on the beach schedule,
And a restricted from 99.
which is fine with me, because it is crowded in the summertime. But after the season, you're out there sometimes by yourself. Yes.
The dog's on a leash.
No, dog's always on a leash on
But
the
that's
pier.
not what number 4 says.
I'm saying, it has to change, but use the seasonal aspects of the beach and indicate that afterwards, the dog can be on the fishing pier on a leash. That's my suggestion.
So I have that.
Have to live with that.
You can make another item there if you want to just go fishing pier. And while we're talking September 15th, let's just go with Tuesday after Labor Day. That's my suggestion.
I was the person that pushed the 15th, and I'm definitely game for the Tuesday after Labor Day. I think we just need to observe on both ends and just make sure as we grow and see things in our off seasons, how that works.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, item 5 is the situation in Central Park, where dogs would be allowed on a leash, physical restraint or electronic collar, except for the times and areas under a town facility use form where the specific event or activity would either encourage dogs off a leash or encourage no dogs at all. So for those folks who have their wedding or wedding reception at Central Park, they wish to exclude dogs, that should be an option. Facilities use form, and as a result, posted no doggies there during those times and that place, that time, that day, but otherwise fine. Or someone wants to fence off a small area and have a dog agility or something like that, where a dog is going to be off leash, that's also an opportunity to rent Central Park for that purpose. So Central Park becomes amenable to both those who are pro-dog and those who might be pro-dog but not even at their event, especially since they're renting the facility for a period of time. That's what I've got. I was brought up the last time, what was the violation? The violation is a class 1 misdemeanor, which is typical in town code and also zoning ordinance. So it's not an undue hardship or an violation of that.
Is there a dollar figure associated with
I
that?
believe it's judged to be $250 a day.
Okay.
If the judge finds you guilty and is prosecuted, not prosecuted. Staff's recommendation is pending council discussion, provide further correction, which I've already received.
Anybody have any more comments?
So this will come back again with the minor revisions that we talked about, and then hold a public hearing for that, or?
Town code doesn't require public hearing.
Okay.
Zoning ordinance does. Town code does not.
But it
Okay.
does allow, I mean, since it'll be in another package, it does allow folks to come out and speak to it, so.
Okay.
I would think, I think that the public hearing we had about the leash law and the dogs was one of the best I was ever at. We got an ovation at the end of the meeting, which was about 3 hours, right? They came in like ugly little dogs, very upset, little rabid dogs, but they went out very, very happy.
And they sat through.
And they sat through hours.
Yeah, they did. So,
Let us know that.
appreciate everybody working together on this. Like I said, we'll be bringing it back to us in another meeting during the near future. Item B, potential sale of real on-time property.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this is an informational report. We just had a public hearing on the sale of a lot, 400 block in Madison, AKA the skateboard lot. Advertisement was, well, first of all, during fiscal year 2020 budget, which is the current fiscal year budget preparation, staff said the proposed sale of a lot as a revenue line of $70,000. That was just posted in the public budget beforehand. That is actually a number that exceeds an older appraisal, which is in around the $63,000 to $64,000 frame. The draft budget was finalized, advertised, and adopted with that revenue line in place. So no action could be taken until the fiscal 2020 year started, which was July 1 of 2019. The town advertised the notice of sale, and it's on the following page, it appeared in the paper, on the June 28th and July 12th. We received the following bids in lowest to highest: 40,000, 60,111, 70,000, 70,100, 78,000, and 85,100. This is provided for information only. It's scheduled for a vote at the regular meeting on the 19th.
Anybody have any questions on that? Thank you, Ray. Up next, wastewater extension funding.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this has been a follow-up on a number of other discussions of the extension of the water and sewer lines, primarily in the unserviced areas in the east end of town, the R3 district. Currently, there's a developer who has actually requested the extension of lines, and there's also the Keckville property at the site out there, which is owned by the town. After having discussed this with staff, project manager, capital projects, treasurer, and the utilities director, staff developed four options, which are under item specific. The first one is to tap the available line of credit to pay for the project up front as a single fund source. That's listed first. That's not necessarily staff's highest recommendation. The second option is to include this project in a bundle of other capital projects, which would include sidewalks, water meters, infiltration and inflow, repair, fishing pier upgrades, street sweeper, and a long-term bond to be financed over time. So that would be a substantial sum of money borrowed to address a number of projects and paid off over a number of time. October 3rd meeting, the firm of Davenport & Company will present to town council a financial forecast, including the ability to carry additional debt. So pending that presentation, staff proposes no action on this option either. Option 3 is the financing of this project through funds that have already been appropriated for capital expenditures in 2020. So a project or a number of projects would have to constitute donors to move money that's already been approved for capital expenditure to this project. That would have to be done by budget amendment and all that. But staff doesn't have a donor project at this time. So a fine donor project would kind of mitigate against.
It may be multiple.
It may be multiple. So that becomes a question of what doesn't get done and the cost. So the opportunity cost. The longer we put off X to do Y, X gets more expensive.
Okay, you look at some of the items that we have there, community trail and what have you,
library.
Not going to die on a hill there as a result of not doing that next year or whatever. So, all right, please.
That's what the donor project. We would have to find that project not to. And then the fourth option includes a self-financing project, and there's a narrative and a spreadsheet attached to that for that. I believe Panic can probably speak to the particulars, but what it essentially does is it allows us to tap into money that's already been set aside for infrastructure improvements and extension, which we typically only think of the expansion of plants, but actually use for expansion of the systems, and then over time we pay ourselves back. We would have to pay ourselves back. Staff also recommends an increase in the connection fees for new construction of 2 or more bedroom residential units from the current $12,350 to $15,000. The current fee of $12,350 is not stymieing development at all at Cape Charles. You look at the amount of construction that's gone on and the value of some of these individual single-family homes. If they can't meet a $2,700 increase on a $400,000 construction, arguably there's a problem. The additional $2,700 will not stunt development. Will more quickly help refund utilities funds that's already been tapped. So we're paying back a higher number than what we borrowed.
Wouldn't we have to amend that clause where it says we can't use that money?
Can I speak to that?
That is it's earmarked specifically for expansion, right?
Yeah, well, that's actually a mistake in the paper. For those of you that were on council, Chris, and probably Steve, who's not here. I had forgotten that when we had obtained the financing package for the wastewater plant, a condition of the grant and loan package was to bring our town code section on wastewater as well as water into compliance with DEQ's regulations. When we did that, definitions that were included in the town code are expansive. They include the entire system as far as facility use.
So it's going to change from the last discussion we had last month.
Yes, that is wrong. Okay, the existing town code is adequate to allow the use of that money for extension of collection systems and water distribution systems. What does have to be considered, and this goes into, this speaks to Larry's recommendation to increase the connection charges, is that the calculation that has been done over the years is only for plant expansion. So the legislative authority already exists. You don't have to legislate new language, it already exists. But it would be wise to increase the connection fee a little bit.
All right, question on that. Is it going to be enough to cover, say, the 80 acres of the industrial area too? If we're going to do it, might as well do it.
Well, I think that's a little bit different kettle of fish. That presumably will be developed. Which area?
Over by the industrial area.
The industrial area. I mean, that presumably will be developed in some sort of a master development. And similar to Bay Creek, where the developer will be responsible for the distribution systems and collection systems inside.
Well, I agree, but I'd say it's almost like protecting Angel's property where we're responsible to get it out there.
It's already there.
Well, it may be in that particular case.
It's already there at the industrial park.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. The pump station in Bay Creek, on Bay Creek Parkway, was built to support that development. The water is right there.
That's right, and you're talking in the northeast corner, correct? I know what you're talking about. Northeast corner of Bay Creek.
Bay Creek Parkway.
Yeah, the Parkway.
Right. But that backs up to the.
How about the railroad property?
Again, there's a 10-inch force main that goes right by that property, as well as the water distribution lines.
Okay, because anything that we run over, let's say somebody comes in and wants to put a PUD in there and it's on the other side, we're going to have to run over to the boundary of that PUD and then have them pick it up from there. So there could be an expense to have all of the main.
It would not be as large.
Perhaps, but I'm just saying, item number 4, you know, we can be talking about this particular property in particular, but in the grand scheme of things, item 4 could be covering other areas that will come into play in the future.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Make sure we cover our costs in the future.
But that could be, again, dealt with by an increase in connection charges. The other benefit of increasing the connection charges is that does then allow the developer to participate a bit in this financing.
Anybody have any questions?
Mary, do you know that, or either of you guys, no, Bob, you might know, either of you, do you know that, so Devin will be here on October 3rd, right, and give us kind of a bigger picture about what Devin can afford, right? I don't think, because we have already set our priorities with the capital projects we already have. We went through a lot of priority setting this last one, so I'm not in favor of looking for donor projects to do this. So,
But I don't know what a donor project is.
well, Robin from over
Take
It's
it
not
back,
trying to
take it
figure it
back,
out,
take
but-
Project is shooting.
I'm like, I don't think it's the same thing I think is a donor project, and maybe other people
In
don't.
other words,
In other words, take it from paper to paper.
I'm
In other words, don't do a project, don't do a project.
All right, but if you get into capital improvement plan, you have emergencies that come up that we're gonna have to deal with. And this can be considered one that you then have to come back and look at what your existing spreader projects are.
Right, but it's time that we look at these areas where extensions should be in the future.
I agree with that.
And
because
so, as well as if there are the next batch of capital projects that we need to be thinking about and, putting a pencil to paper about that, and then foresee what we can afford, what Davenport, advises us. Do we need to have an answer about the extension, this specific extension before October 3rd?
Staff's recommendation is no. This isn't, not be a priority, a top priority for the developer out there on the R3. It actually isn't a priority for the town. If you look at the actual end of all of this recommendations, we need an engineering report first.
Yeah, right, well,
And that's why
if there was
everybody's
something
recommending.
super pressing about that, I would rather wait till we get the engineering report and some estimates, and then we see what.
And you have all of that on the agenda on the 19th.
That could wait until after Davenport, but I have it on the 19th, we can move until after Davenport.
Are we already getting an engineering?
No.
Well,
It
no
will-
PSA line is.
Yeah, we have, this is a segment of the planned PSA line. So there is a engineering report, and plans and specifications that were developed at the 30% stage. I have had discussions, and they can be brought obviously fairly quickly with 100% design. I've had discussions with Hurt Profit, who is the original engineering firm. They obviously would be glad to do that first. I've asked them for an estimate, fee proposal to do that. That would include plan specifications, bid package, as well as an engineer's cost estimate. In order to do that, in order to reach them, we would have to get the contract signed from the PSA to the town. I've had initial discussions with the chairman of the PSA firm. So we can, if council desires to move forward, we can push that forward to get an engineering report. But we need to find out what it will cost. My wild guess is it's going to be probably $30,000. You can't get an engineer's report for much less than that.
I think you're gonna need it, you're gonna have to firm up some forecast on dollars and what this thing looks like. What flexibility is built into it.
Direct staff to proceed.
I would say yes.
Yeah, you know,
Engineer's report.
Well, we're gonna bring that back on the 19th for that purpose, right?
We'll
Or
bring-
is this
I can
recommended?
bring back the 19th or after the county.
I really feel, I'd like to hear that before we make a decision on which way to go on third. October 3rd, or somebody else feel that.
finally, we're at that extremely low right now, considering what the
But anyway, I still think we need to engineer, so I would like to,
Proceed on the.
I would like to first start seeing on engineering before, hold off and then wait till we get, hear from that, and we're on our finances, and then we can make a decision. That's what I'm saying. Is that good with everybody? Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Bob. Up next, town manager recruitment. As some of you may or may not know, Larry will be leaving us at the end of March of next year, so we definitely appreciate everything he's done so far. then we'll continue to work with you and move on to later pastures or better pastures or whatever pasture that may be. Anyway, we have to find a replacement. Tell me what you got.
We're gonna make it work for you, Gator.
They have contacted the town clerk.
Libby?
Well, I know the last go around, we had a panel and we did the search in-house versus hiring out a third party. And in my opinion, I think it worked well overall. Now you have the option of, doing another search panel for the recruitment or doing it as the council as a whole. We placed advertisements last go around in a number of publications, professional websites, and social media sites. And I recommend doing something similar. I got updated costs, and of course putting on the CapeCharles.org has no expense, as well as our Facebook page. Virginia Municipal League is no cost for members. The Virginia Association of Counties is $50 for non-members. The North Carolina League of Municipalities is $150 for non-members. The ICMA, which is the International City Council Management Association, is $450. That covers 60 days with the option to renew it for another 60 days. The Engaging Local Government Leaders Network is no cost for members. And then, the Eastern Shore Post, last run, we paid about $300 to run it twice. The Maryland Municipal League does not accept out-of-state postings, and the Delaware League of Local Government does not have an area for job postings on their site. And the majority of the applications or submittals that were received were from the VML, VACO, and ICMA. So it's up to council to decide, one, if you want to have a recruitment committee or doing it as a whole, and when you want to submit the applications. I believe there's an advertisement. The draft advertisement is in here, and Larry noted one error in the year. That was just wishful thinking, I think.
You get to give us an extra year.
Yeah. But
that's
right.
Yeah, so. Can you tell us the past committee, who the members?
It was originally it was with the mayor and Joe Natale, and I don't think Chris was on it. I don't think so.
Chris wasn't on.
It was the mayor, Joe Natale, and then we had Larry Weber, who is a resident of town that owns a headhunting service. And then, of course, I was on there. And then we added, once the election was done, we added, you and Tammy and Paul. There was one other person on there, I can't think of who it was.
Was it Steve?
No, I think it was Bob Hanner.
It's a long time ago.
It was Bob. You were on there to begin with, and then you stepped aside after the three new council members came on board because it got to be a very large.
I don't mind a small committee in the beginning to kind of lead somebody.
That's what we
When
did.
we get down to the final, that gets a council.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
That's what we did before.
Yeah, we did that before. We got down to 4 or 5 candidates.
Because I think we need to make sure we're reviewing the job description and all of those things before we start even thinking about posting, coming up with a timeline and all of those aspects. I think that's
what's in.
right, but specific, like putting dates kind of to it so that it keeps us on track from a committee's work to then we move forward.
Last time, I think the whole process took about 4 months. And that's pretty average. So if we start now, we would have somebody in place maybe for some overlap. And then we have the holidays to contend with. As last time we didn't have the holidays, but this time we do.
So I guess everybody review what was in the application?
Oh, what's currently here?
What's currently?
A lot of this was, it was updated for the last go around, for the town profile and everything. And I know we had the panel members last time review it and make any updates to it. So again, I would recommend that, take the time to review it and see if you have any changes, because, things do change. And the town manager position requirements, Larry and I reviewed over the past month and made a couple of updates to that.
How about we do this, everybody review what's in there. Next, then we'll get direction. Review what's in there. Said anything that you see or whatever, make any, I guess, send any emails if you see anything. The next meeting,
The regular meeting on
the
the
next
next
regular
week.
meeting, will direct staff to advertise.
And what I'd like to do the next, the next meeting, I think we need to come with who are the in-house
Okay.
employees. So if you can poll people offline.
Oh. So the next meeting, regular meeting, we will vote to direct staff to advertise, and we'll have a committee. Anybody got anything else? Can I get a motion to recess to close session?
Did you look over here, would you say that they got to?
I actually looked at you first, I was going to say that.
So, I wanted to say two things. One was, I remain concerned about these appeals that come to this from the review board. And if there had been an appropriate time to have more explanation of our reasons for voting, not that it's not criticism, I would just want to say that particularly with regard to this appeal, I think there were three really important factors that I took into consideration. I don't speak for anybody but myself, and one was that there were existing aluminum windows there, and we couldn't really tell how long that had been there, and it wasn't something different when we were already changing the storefront with another door, which seemed more important to me than just replacing similar windows. That seemed, and I know it's a use thing, but that was something that I was trying to think about in a way. And I also weigh in staff's recommendation. I know that you look at these things and expect you to. I appreciate you doing that along with all the board members who do that, and that all the input is necessary to see that. So I think that's important to say. And I think if and when we make these rulings again, having some findings on the record or our rationale would be helpful. That's one thing I think.
Can I add on to that? With regards to the storefront, the guidelines will go so far. I found an easier decision on the additional door than I did on the windows. And only because there is publications there by the historic powers to be there that was quoted in as justification. So there, once I went through those particular publications, I said, okay, they're meeting the requirements of what an additional door on a storefront means, and I felt comfortable. So there is other information that sometimes we have to glean.
Anybody have any other comments? Can I get a motion to recess to close session?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.